Hello everyone, this is Dimitri from Notus Games and welcome back to part 12 of our ongoing devlog series. It's been already 1 month since the last devlog for Hate Me Not, and yeah, I think it's time to change that and just give you a little bit of an update for what we are doing, what we have been doing up until now, and just to also remind you that actually right now we have a Steam page on, so after you watch the video, go down in the description and check out the Steam page. We are open for feedback, but the best thing of course you can do is wishlist the game so that we know that, you know. So generally speaking, we also updated the demo on the itch.io page, so if you want to try out the latest build, then you can go there and you can then directly click here on wishlist as well. And if you cannot find the wishlist button here, then you can find it here as well. And if you cannot find it here as well, then you will be able to find it inside of the game when you, for example, lose and stuff like that. Generally speaking, let's say wishlisting the game on itch.io is a bit easier now, but that's not what we came for here, right? I'm gonna show you some of the very cool stuff we've made in the meantime. So let's start with the start screen. Basically, this is a completely new screen. It shows off the character you have ended up with, and basically we want to add multiple characters. These characters will have a basic ability and then 2 more additional abilities based on a random roll. And the same goes with some starting buffs and debuffs. Basically you have here a balance, which is kind of like the difficulty setting. By default it's, just a little bit difficult, but depending on where it is, so in the middle there's no buff or debuff. If it's very much to the left, you start with 2 buffs and 1 debuff. And if it's like all the way here, then basically you have completely just, very difficult time because all of the sicknesses and whatever else is gonna happening. We like the idea of having difficulty and balance be basically the same inside of our game because, our game is based off yin-yang, good, evil, balance, and changing the balance to make the game easier or more difficult is actually, I think, pretty nice. So basically now you can re-roll as many times as you want, and that's, there is no drawback from that, but in the future we want to either limit it to like 3 rerolls before you start a game or something like that, to have a little bit of this roguelike randomness inside of our game, And yeah, you also probably notice that we have more skills here available that didn't exist before in the last devlog. So I'm gonna jump into the game and just show you off some of the stuff that we've made. So you can already see the UI has changed a lot. We have some pop-ups here that remind you that enemies are incoming, and now I'm also fighting them, so it's a little bit distracting, but as you also notice, we have the damage indicators. So just so many things have changed here, like some additional information when you pick up the buffs. So yes, as you saw here, I just feared away those enemies, and with Q I can electrify the enemies. We're gonna still have a little bit of a balancing round with all of the abilities and stuff, but I think it's very nice that we have this variety now, and I really like, for example, also the scare face thing that's fearing the enemies. So yeah, also as you see now, whenever you pick up the buffs, we have some timers here that show you how long the effects last. Let me fight these enemies off and scare maybe some away. The fear is a little bit bugged yet, but it's gonna get fixed soon. So this UI has also been revamped. You can see now that left and right click are these abilities here. I need to update this loading time thing here for charged attacks, but of course I'm gonna do that at some point. And the 3 skills abilities that you have, they're also visible here with Q, space and E. So now the weapons have actually a level. So I would get the boomerang of level 7 now, sorry, of level 5. And it's a bit stronger than, of course, the normal boomerang. And oh, perfect timing actually, because now you can see already one of the, oh my god, what's happening here? One of the new types of enemies, the leech, is basically going and eating away all of the ammo. So you need to go to the side. And of course here you cannot attack them, so you need to position yourself in a nice way so that the yin-yang itself will attack it. And this is of course a bit annoying, but that's the purpose of these enemies. They're supposed to be annoying. Oh no. Yes. So, and if they cannot find any enemies, they're gonna go towards the yin yang. For now, there is a small bug where you can activate abilities on the left side, and of course that way you could kill them. But in the future we want to prohibit that, and then basically the only way to kill those leeches will be to just, you know, have a nice standoff between the yin yang and you, and in the middle these leeches. And yeah, I think it's funny. What we also did, because we had like all of this different stuff we were implementing, is I've shown you last time the gallery, but now it's a little bit better. We have more stuff, and the monsters are looking also better. The spar here is looking nice, and we have improved on the spawning of the enemies. So basically now we have a few categories: minions, spicy minions that are a little bit more than just, you know, simply stupid monsters that are moving towards the yin yang. And we have of course the triplets here, which are a mini boss, and they split into multiple enemies. And also, since we added a lot of abilities, we wanted to have the ability list here. And what is cool about this one here specifically is the way we programmed it. So let me go and show you now a very, very cool part of the coding that I'm very happy about. Because, you know, programming the UI part is not the most fun thing to do. Whenever you do it's like every list you need to do that every time again and again, although the lists already exist in the backend, right? So here's how we do the implementation in the front end so that it's as simple as possible. So to just go straight through it, this is all of the stuff we have here. So not many nodes. And let's go here to this container here, and I'm gonna show you this new script we have is UI list. So basically, this UI list can dynamically create a list of anything I want based on a very simple data binding model thing. So basically, you have a container, you add the list to it, and you give the path in the backend where you can find the list. You give it a template to copy paste for each of the individual objects inside of the list. And here's then this template, the skill button here. You can define if it's gonna use, for example, labels, buttons and stuff, so that it hooks up the data binding for each of the objects individually. So here I'm specifically adding an additional layer for the data binding, that the text here should be based on the title, and it should be enabled based on the demo attribute. So I'm gonna show you now how this works. Basically, with these three simple objects, I can just reuse my backend model and create a very quick list to work with. And also, as you saw, whenever you clicked on each of this stuff, it also changed the UI here. And these are actually bound to the gallery selected path. So basically, whenever I select something, it rebinds itself, and then I can select the icon for it, or here again I'm selecting the title. So this has been a blast to set up. It was very fun to implement. It was a little bit of a coding challenge for me, but now it also pays off because making UI in the future is going to be so much easier. We are also using the same thing in the start. Basically, this container here also is a UI list, and it gets the buffs, and here in this list we get the debuffs. So very simple to hook up, and yeah. So I'm gonna show you now how this works all in the backend. Just for a comparison, this is how we were usually connecting the UI and the backend together. We were having this endless list of notepads, and I know I could probably split up stuff in subclasses. Still, then you have to, you know, get the node and stuff, and then, you know, connect to presses and whatever else you have to do. And this was not so, you know, nice. Of course, with Godot 4, it's gonna be a bit better because you don't need to use notepads anymore. But still, right now, since we're still working with Godot 3.5.2, because we want to be able to build a WebGL build with C#, then we don't have another option right now. So anyways, this was kind of the best thing and quickest thing we could do. And the new gallery looks like this. This is the only script that I had to program specifically for the gallery skills thing here, I have a list of skills, and on ready, I go to my asset manager. If it is not null, then I fetch all of the ability definitions I have, and then I just add them directly. And I'm having here this model defined, where I say that, you know, there's a title here, there's an icon here, description and stuff. And from the ability definition, I'm just setting the values one by one. This could probably be better in the future if I combine this model with the way that I define the abilities and save them inside of Godot. This is currently a resource, and I'm going to show you how we are loading the assets through our custom asset manager in a second. But yeah, this can become better in the future, but for now it's working fine, and it's saving us some of the complexity we had before. So after I add all of the skills to the list here, then I just subscribe to the selection of the list, and I also set here that the first thing is going to be selected, and I do this process for the data binding here. And also on selection change, I again do the process for the data binding here so that it's just mapped. It's not 100% clean, and I know it can be improved a lot, but for now I'm just happy that I don't have to do, this thing here, and I can do only this part and it works. And in the future, I hope I can remove maybe even half of this part of the coding, and it's gonna be a very, very simple thing. So there's one more thing that I want to show you. Basically, you're gonna have to watch this very quickly. When I press start, there's a small loading bar here. And what happens there, and I'm gonna show you now. Basically, I have here a custom asset manager, because the problem I had was that whenever the game was launching, it was launching very quickly, but some of the assets that I needed, for example, some of the buffs, some of the abilities, they were not loaded already. So I was loading them dynamically whenever I needed them, and that was causing sometimes for a small lag spike to happen. And I was like, let me finally create some nice asset manager that I can use, which is gonna be very easy for me to implement. So basically what I wanted was an asset manager that takes a path. So for example, here the weapons, or maybe let's go with the abilities instead. So the abilities, and I wanted it to go into the Godot folder. So this one, objects, configurations, abilities, and just load all of those into a list that I can use. So what I did here is create some classes here that facilitate the loading of it. So a resource asset provider. And what I do with it is I use a path here to define where it should load the assets from, what type of object it is. So basically it's always a resource, but sometimes I have custom resources, like for example the ability definition. It's a custom resource. So I want the ability definitions here to directly give me that and not just give me, for example, resource back. So I use a dynamic type here to be able to do that very easily. And when I use it, or wherever I use it, let's go for example here into get all. So here I immediately get all of them, and there's the ability definition directly there. So that is a nice thing. And later on I go to scan the folders for all of the assets, and then I use load or load async depending on if I can use async. So what I realized is the WebGL build can only work with the load method. The async methods do not work, unfortunately. So yes, I don't know why that is happening, but once I realized that was the case, why my WebGL build was crashing, I differentiated that, and I think that's also a little bit cleaner. So yeah, it also then has an event, so when the progress changes, I update the percentage and stuff, like a basic loader thing. But what I really like is that I can just give a path and it loads all of the assets. And there's one very tiny thing that's very funny, and let me find it here. So I think I can show this in the audio manager a little bit better. So the problem I had with the WebGL build was that when I was iterating over the directory, it was only finding the .import files. So basically, whenever I was searching for the .wav file, it was not finding it. It was only finding the .wav import file. So when I was using the gdload method, it was like, what the heck? What are you doing? This thing that you're trying to find, it does not exist. So what the solution there was, and it kind of baffled me why it is like that in only the WebGL build. That's why here the has feature web condition is existing. But the problem is that you can only find this one, but when you load it, you load it without the .import part. So I had to find all of the possible files with the .import ending and then split it so that, you know, it's removed. So the .wav .import is got split and it only stays with .wav, and then it can somehow load it. So for me that's a little bit weird, but on the other hand, some things are the way they are, and this is a workaround that works. So whenever I want to add now another weapon, I just easily can put it into the directory, and it's going to be both added to the gallery and it's going to be added automatically to the pool of weapons you can get as long as you've unlocked them. So yeah, I think that's basically it with the changes. We have a few more things done, but I think then the video would probably get a little bit too long. So with that in mind, please go to our Steam page and you know, wishlist the game, because that would really mean a lot. If you want, you can then go down to the comments and post some of your feedback. How do you find the progress of the game? What would you like to see maybe in the future? And see you around in the next video, which is hopefully not gonna be 1 month later, but maybe in a week or two. We'll see. If you want to get notified when that happens, then of course you can also subscribe to the channel, because that is something you can do if you want to get notified for upcoming videos. Yes, that's it. See you around. Bye bye.